Hi guys, and welcome on Cheaters&Jerks. This channel is about real-life cheating stories and consequences.
I sat at the kitchen counter, nursing my second cup of coffee and basking in the quiet morning stillness. James had left for work about an hour ago, his goodbye kiss still lingering on my cheek. 10 years of marriage, and his routine never changed. Up at 6 a.m., shower, breakfast, out the door by 7:30. Dependable, predictable, safe. I traced the rim of my mug, lost in thought. James was everything I should want. Kind, stable, successful. He'd given me a beautiful home, a comfortable life. So why did I feel so restless? The clock on the wall ticked away, reminding me I needed to get ready for work soon. Work. A small thrill ran through me at the thought. It wasn't the marketing campaigns or client meetings that excited me lately. It was him. Alex. I closed my eyes, remembering our latest working late session. The way he'd leaned in close, ostensibly to look at something on my computer screen. The heat of his body next to mine. The intoxicating scent of his cologne. "Get it together, Sarah," I muttered, shaking my head. But I couldn't stop the smile that crept across my face. I showered and dressed with extra care, choosing a form-fitting blouse and pencil skirt. As I applied my makeup, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes bright with anticipation. I barely recognized myself. The drive to work was a blur of conflicting emotions. Excitement, guilt, desire, fear. By the time I pulled into the parking garage, my heart was racing. I took a deep breath before entering the office. Just act normal, I told myself. But as soon as I saw Alex across the room, all thoughts of normalcy flew out the window. He looked up from his desk, catching my eye. A slow, knowing smile spread across his face. I felt my knees go weak. "Morning, Sarah," he called out, his voice carrying a hint of suggestion that only I would catch. I managed a casual wave. "Morning, Alex. How's the Johnson account coming along?" He stood up, stretching in a way that showed off his athletic build. "Actually, I was hoping to go over some ideas with you. Got a minute?" I nodded, following him to the small conference room. As soon as the door closed behind us, Alex's demeanor changed. He moved closer, his green eyes blazing with intensity. "God, I've been thinking about you all night," he murmured, his hand ghosting along my arm. I shivered at his touch. "Alex, we can't, not here." He chuckled, low and seductive. "Always the responsible one. That's what makes this so fun." I stepped back, trying to clear my head. "We really do need to work on the Johnson account." "Later," Alex said, closing the distance between us again. "Right now, I want to hear about your plans for tonight. Any chance you can stay late again?" The responsible part of me wanted to say no, to put an end to this dangerous game before it spiraled out of control. But the thrill-seeking part, the part that had been dormant for far too long, won out. "I think that can be arranged," I heard myself say. Alex's grin was triumphant. He leaned in, his lips brushing my ear. "I can't wait to get you alone." A knock at the door made us spring apart. I smoothed my hair, trying to look composed as our creative director poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt," she said. "Sarah, can I borrow you for a client call?" I nodded, grateful for the interruption. As I followed her out, I glanced back at Alex. The heat in his gaze made my pulse quicken. The rest of the day passed in a haze of meetings and deadlines. I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the anticipation building inside me. At 6 p.m., most of the office started to clear out. I texted James, concocting a story about a last-minute crisis with a difficult client. His reply came quickly. "No worries, honey. Don't work too hard. Love you." The guilt hit me like a punch to the gut. James, always so understanding, so trusting. I pushed the feeling aside, focusing instead on the excitement coursing through my veins. At 7 p.m., Alex appeared in my office doorway. "Ready to go?" I nodded, grabbing my purse. We walked to the elevator, maintaining a professional distance until the doors closed. Then Alex's hand was on my waist, pulling me close. "I've been going crazy waiting for this," he murmured, his lips brushing my neck. We stumbled out of the elevator, barely making it to his car before our controls snapped. His kisses were hungry, demanding, so different from James's gentle affection. I lost myself in the passion, pushing away all thoughts of my husband and the life I was risking. Hours later, I crept into my darkened house. James was already asleep, his steady breathing filling our bedroom. I slipped into the bathroom, scrubbing away the evidence of my betrayal. As I climbed into bed, James stirred. "Sarah," he mumbled sleepily. "Shh, go back to sleep," I whispered, guilt twisting in my stomach. He pulled me close, nuzzling my hair. "Missed you." I lay there, rigid in his embrace, my mind reeling. What was I doing? How had I let things get this far? But even as the guilt gnawed at me, I couldn't deny the exhilaration I felt, the passion, the danger. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive. I told myself it was just a phase, that I could stop any time I wanted, that James would never find out. I was wrong on all counts. I walked through the front door, my mind still buzzing from another secret rendezvous with Alex. The house was quiet, but something felt off. I stepped into the living room and froze. James sat there, his eyes boring into me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "Everything okay at work?" he asked, his voice unnervingly calm. A chill ran down my spine. I forced out a laugh, praying it didn't sound as fake as it felt. "Oh, just a demanding client. Nothing I can't handle." I hurried upstairs, feeling his gaze follow me. For the first time, doubt crept into my mind. Was I being too obvious? I shook my head. No, I had everything under control. I always did. The next morning, I overslept. In my rush to get ready, I left my phone on the nightstand, unlocked. I didn't think anything of it until that evening when James casually brought up Alex's name. "So how's Alex doing? You two work on a lot of projects together, right?" My stomach tightened. I plastered on a smile, hoping it looked natural. "Oh, Alex? Yeah, we're on the same team, just a coworker, James nodded, but something in his eyes made me uneasy. Had he seen something on my phone? The thought made me feel sick, but also excited. The danger of it all was intoxicating. I knew I should be more careful, but instead, I found myself taking bigger risks. Sneaking out for lunch meetings that lasted hours. Texting Alex right under James's nose. The thrill of almost getting caught was addictive. One afternoon, I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed. It was Alex. "Can't stop thinking about yesterday. Same time today?" I grinned, my heart racing. I shouldn't. I really shouldn't. But God, I wanted to. "On my way," I typed back, already grabbing my purse. As I hurried out of the office, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the elevator doors. My cheeks were flushed, my eyes bright with excitement. I barely recognized myself. But I liked this version of me. Reckless, desired, alive. It was a Friday evening and every detail needed to be perfect. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, applying the final touches to my lipstick. Crimson, bold, but not overpowering. I tilted my head, studying my reflection. My hair spilled in soft waves over my shoulders, brushing against the neckline of my blouse. One of James's favorites. That irony didn't escape me. I smoothed it down, exhaling slowly, trying to steady the mixture of nerves and thrills simmering beneath my skin. James had texted earlier, saying he'd be working late. "Big breakthrough on the project," he'd said, followed by a promise to grab takeout on his way home. I glanced at the clock. Plenty of time. The knock on the door made me jump, my heart pounding in my chest. I moved quickly, almost tripping on the rug in my heels. Pulling the door open, I found Alex standing there, hands buried in the pockets of his leather jacket, his smirk already lighting up his perfect, infuriatingly cocky face. "Nice place," he said casually, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His eyes swept the room like he was taking mental inventory. Better than the office supply closet. I rolled my eyes but grinned, shutting the door behind him. Don't get used to it, I teased, tugging at the lapel of his jacket playfully. This is a one-time thing. He's late at work, so don't push your luck. Relax, Alex said, sliding his jacket off his shoulders and draping it over a nearby chair with a confidence that made my stomach flip. He stepped closer, his body radiating that distinct energy that always pulled me in. He'll never know. I hesitated, my gaze flicking toward the door. But then Alex's hands were on my waist, pulling me toward him, and that sliver of doubt slipped away. No one could ruin this moment. I tilted my face toward his, letting him kiss me, the heat of it erasing everything else. We made our way to the bedroom, shedding layers of clothes as we moved. My back hit the bed, Alex practically devouring me as his lips worked down my neck. I barely registered him grabbing the bottle of lubricant from the bedside table. That was new. But lately, James hadn't been coming to bed much anyway, so I hadn't really thought about it. Alex didn't either. He shook the bottle, a wicked grin flashing across his face as he poured some onto his palm. Let me, I offered, taking it from him, chasing the feeling of being bold, untouchable. My fingers brushed against his skin and his breath hitched. But almost immediately, his expression shifted. His jaw tightened. The grin disappeared. Shit! He whispered under his breath, his face suddenly etched with confusion. He froze, his gaze darting down at himself. What the? I frowned. What's wrong? I asked, sitting up. And then it hit me. A burning, searing heat like nothing I'd ever felt before. My body reacted instantly, jerking away from Alex, my hands clawing uselessly at myself. The pain spread so quickly I couldn't process it. It was like fire coursing through my veins, licking at my skin. Ah, shit! What is this? Alex's hands shot to the waistband of his boxers, his voice cracking as he stumbled backward, his face beet red and glistening with sweat. His breathing was ragged, sharp, each exhale turning into a hiss of pain. I couldn't answer him, couldn't think straight. My own agonized screams filled the room as I writhed, clawing at my thighs, my stomach, anywhere to ease the hellish burning. It didn't help. What's happening to me? My voice broke as the words erupted from my mouth before I dissolved into sobs. Alex had fallen to his knees on the carpet, curled in on himself, swearing and gasping for air. The bedroom door slammed open. I forced my head up, vision blurred by tears, and there he was. James! He stood in the doorway, his broad frame outlined against the dim hallway light. His face was unnervingly stoic, but his hazel eyes burned with something primal. Triumph, satisfaction, anger, sharp as a knife's edge. For a moment, none of us said anything. Just the sound of Alex's groans and my panicked heaving breaths filled the air. Looks like this isn't quite what you had in mind, James said finally, his voice devoid of anything warm or human. It was cold, precise, and terrifying. The weight of it hit me all at once. Oh my God. My scream stopped mid-sentence, my lips trembling. James knew. He'd known for God knows how long. I searched for the right words, anything to explain, but nothing made it past the lump in my throat. Panic choked me as realization set in fully. The camera I hadn't noticed before winked at me mockingly from the bookshelf. What did you do? My voice came out hoarse, rasping against the stabbing ache in my throat. James stepped inside, methodical, taking his time with every step. His face remained disturbingly calm, only the muscle in his jaw betraying the tension coiling inside him. Capsaicin, he responded, lifting one shoulder in a nonchalant shrug. Turns out it's not just good for spicy food. Thought I'd test its versatility. Alex was incoherent now, half crawling, half dragging himself toward the bathroom. The sound of the faucet running followed immediately. Splashes of water, frantic but useless. The thought clawed its way into my mind. Capsaicin doesn't wash away. James, please, I began, but he cut me off with a humorless laugh that froze the words in my mouth. Please, Please! Don't even start with that bullshit, he snapped, his voice growing sharper. You brought him into my house, my bed. You thought I wouldn't notice that you're smarter than me? Tears streamed down my face, mingling with the last remnants of my makeup as I shook my head frantically. The burning hadn't stopped. If anything, it had worsened. But the shame radiating off James's words stung even more. You're insane, Alex managed to choke out, his hands still clinging to the sink like it was the only thing holding him up. His face twisted in disbelief and agony all at once as he stared at James. You ducking psycho! James smirked, leaning casually against the wall, his arms crossed like he wasn't even remotely affected by Alex's words. And yet, he drawled slowly, his gaze darting between us, here we are. I tried to inch closer to him, desperation clawing through the haze of pain wrapping around me like a second skin. James, I'm sorry. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. Please, we can talk about this. But his eyes narrowed, and the look he gave me was one of utter disgust. He shook his head, letting out a dry laugh. There's nothing to talk about. You've said everything already, Sarah, loud and clear. My heart shattered. It physically hurt, as if pieces of it had turned sharp-edged and lodged themselves in my chest. I reached for him despite the revulsion in his face, despite the searing ache in my body, but he moved back, out of reach. Don't! His voice was a blade of steel, cutting through the air. Alex staggered out of the bathroom, his pants still unbuttoned, water dripping from his face and hair. He looked like a drowned rat, equal parts enraged and terrified. You'll be hearing from me, Alex barked, his voice faltering as he double-stepped toward the door. This isn't over. James's smile widened, dangerous and humorless again. Feel free. Don't trip over your dignity on the way out. Alex paused, gaze darting between me and James before bolting. The sound of his footsteps receded quickly, and the weight of his absence slammed down on me. I was alone now with James. My hands trembled as I tried to find words again, but James wasn't listening. He grabbed my suitcase from the closet, yanking it down with enough force to make hangers rattle. James! I tried one more time, choking on my own sobs. Please, I didn't mean for this to happen. You mean everything to me. We can fix it. Stop, he barked, slamming the suitcase onto the bed and stuffing clothes randomly inside it. Just stop. You're not going to worm your way out of this. Not this time. I watched helplessly as he tossed item after item into the bag, as though every piece of fabric removed from the closet was a reminder of what I'd destroyed. There was no stopping him. I saw that now. I stared at the ceiling of my cramped studio apartment, the shadows from passing cars dancing across the cracked plaster. The finality of it all hit me like a punch to the gut. Months had passed, but the pain was still raw, festering like an open wound. James had taken everything in the divorce. Our beautiful house with its perfectly manicured lawn, gone. The sleek car we'd picked out together on our 5th anniversary, gone. Even Buddy, our golden retriever who used to curl up at the foot of our bed every night, gone. And what did I have? A shitty apartment with paper-thin walls and the constant drone of traffic outside. The bare essentials I'd managed to scrape together. And this gnawing emptiness that threatened to swallow me whole. Every night was the same. I'd close my eyes, desperate for sleep, only to see James's face. The fury in his eyes, the pain etched into every line. The way he looked at me like I was a stranger, someone he didn't recognize anymore. And duck, maybe he was right. I barely recognize myself these days. The worst part? The goddamn burning. It was like my skin remembered the capsaicin, playing it on repeat. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my face on fire, gasping for air. A cruel reminder of the night everything went to hell. I rolled over, grabbing my phone from the nightstand. My finger hovered over Alex's name in my contacts. I knew I shouldn't, but loneliness is a bitch. It makes you do stupid things. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, he picked up. "What do you want?" His voice was cold, nothing like the playful tone I remembered from our stolen moments at work. "Alex, I just wanted to talk. How are you?" He scoffed. "How am I? Are you ducking kidding me, Sarah? I got chemical burns because of you. My face looked like ground beef for weeks." I flinched at the venom in his words. "I'm sorry. I didn't know James would—" "Save it," he cut me off. "You know what? I'm glad this shit happened. Showed me what kind of person you really are. A selfish, lying bitch who doesn't give a damn about anyone but herself." The words stung, each one like a slap to the face. "That's not fair, Alex. I cared about you. I still do." "Bullshit. You cared about the thrill, the excitement. But when shit hit the fan, you were nowhere to be found. So, do us both a favor and lose my number." The line went dead, leaving me alone with the echo of his words. I threw my phone across the room, listening to it clatter against the wall. Tears burned in my eyes, hot and angry. This was my life now. Alone in a shitty apartment, hated by the man I'd loved for years, and despised by the one I'd risked everything for. The burning sensation crept back, phantom pain spreading across my face. A reminder of my mistakes, seared into my skin. I curled up on the bed, hugging my knees to my chest. The silence of the apartment pressed in on me, suffocating. No Buddy snoring softly at my feet. No James's steady breathing beside me. Just me and the consequences of my actions stretching out endlessly into the night. Into the night. Into the night.